Welcome to the TELPAS Alternate Test Administration Procedures training module. This presentation will cover important information about this component of the Texas Assessment Program. This presentation is for any school personnel who may serve as a test administrator of TELPAS Alternate. It describes the qualifications to serve as a test administrator, addresses test security and confidentiality, and lists the steps for administering TELPAS Alternate. Note that this PowerPoint should not be used as the sole resource for test administrators. Training should include information from the Test Administrator Manual, as well as the District and Campus Coordinator resources. The Federal Every Student Succeeds Act, also known as ESSA, requires each state to administer an alternate English language proficiency assessment for emergent bilingual (EB) students with the most significant cognitive disabilities, who cannot participate in the state's general English language proficiency assessment, even with allowable accommodations. The Texas Education Agency worked with stakeholders to develop TELPAS Alternate. It is an assessment to evaluate students in grades 2 through 12 who receive special education services as identified in the Public Education Information Management System, who are identified as an EB student, and who are identified as having a most significant cognitive disability. This chart summarizes the training requirements for TELPAS Alternate. Take a moment to review the type of training needed for each group of educators. Note that the District and Campus Coordinator resources and calendar of events contain specific training requirements and due dates by role. Both the District and Campus Coordinator resources and the Texas Assessment webpage include resources for test coordinators. The Training Activities section in the DCCR includes information for district and campus testing coordinators, test administrators, and other testing personnel. The Online Administration section in the DCCR focuses on details for technology staff and test administrators who transcribe student scoring information into Cambium's data entry interface system. The user guides can also be found on the Texas Assessment webpage. There are 2 user guides available as resources for testing coordinators. The Test Information Distribution Engine User Guide includes information on the user, student, and test management system. The Data Entry Interface User Guide includes information on the system used to enter students' ratings for TELPAS Alternate. Both of these guides can be found in the System User Guides section of the DCCR. All test administrators should read and become familiar with the entire TELPAS Alternate Test Administrator Manual. Use the link on the screen if you need to access the manual, which is found on the TELPAS Alternate Resources webpage. Test administrators should also receive training on security, test procedures, and the data entry interface system from the district coordinator or campus coordinator. TELPAS Alternate test administrators may include special education teachers, bilingual or ESL teachers, or other service providers who regularly work with the students. Test administrators must have a high level of interaction and familiarity with the students. They must hold valid education credentials, such as Texas Educator certificates and permits. Test administrators must sign the security oath before handling any secure test materials. Note that districts must assign the same test administrator to evaluate a student in all 4 language domains. Certified and non-certified paraprofessionals may serve as test administrators or assistants only if they are trained in test administration procedures and sign the oath. They must be supervised, either directly or indirectly, by a certified professional on the same campus throughout the test administration. TELPAS Alternate test materials are not secure until a student's name or observational information has been added as part of the holistic inventory. For example, when the teacher writes the student's name or other personal information on the paper inventory and begins to make notes, that document must be kept confidential. During testing, keep all paper materials with confidential student information in locked storage. Completed inventories must be kept in the student's permanent record files for 2 years from the time of being rated. See the District and Campus Coordinator resources for more detailed test security information. Before administering TELPAS Alternate, read the entire TELPAS Alternate Test Administrator Manual. Contact your district or campus testing coordinator with any questions. Note that test administrators may have no notes or different types of notes from those shown. This graphic is intended only as an example, and the dates shown may not necessarily fall within the current year's test administration window. Follow these steps to administer TELPAS Alternate. Step 1. Start with one student in one domain. Step 2. Review each of the 10 observable behaviors for that domain, along with the 5 descriptions of student performance. You do not have to consider the observable behaviors in the order they appear. Step 3. Consider one observable behavior at a time. Think about the description that most closely matches the student's performance, most consistently. Think about how well the student has demonstrated the ability to understand or use English in the context of skills the student is learning. And think about how well the student was able to understand or use English when practicing these skills in a classroom setting. Step 4. Mark the bubble under the description that closely matches the student's most consistent use of English. Mark only one bubble. Step 5. After finishing all 10 observable behaviors for the first domain, continue with the observable behaviors for the 3 remaining domains. Once the inventory is complete, the observations must be transcribed into Cambium's data entry interface system for scoring. Students must be registered for the TELPAS Alternate administration in the system before observations can be transcribed. If the test administrator will be transcribing the information, a user account must be created in the test information distribution engine, and access must be granted to the data entry interface system by the district or campus coordinator. The test administrator, or other designated testing personnel, will log into the data entry interface system and use the information from the student's holistic inventory. After all 40 observations are transcribed, the ratings need to be submitted. And the ratings must be processed in the DEI system by the deadline noted on the calendar of events. Please note that the student must have been rated with all 40 observable behaviors in order to submit the ratings. If a student does not participate in TELPAS Alternate, a Do Not Score designation must be selected from the Appeals section of the Test Information Distribution Engine. The Do Not Score designations are as follows. The letter E means extenuating circumstances. The letter M means medical exception. And the letter N means no authentic academic response. A Do Not Score designation of extenuating circumstances means the student is unable to be assessed in all 4 language domains due to extenuating circumstances. For example, a student was hospitalized or became sick and didn't return until after the testing window closed. The test administrator was able to successfully rate the student in one or a couple of domains, but not in all domains. The test cannot be submitted unless all observable behaviors have been marked, so the score code for this student would be E. This score code designation is rare and should be made in consultation with the Texas Education Agency. A Do Not Score designation of medical exception means that the student is unable to participate meaningfully in the TELPAS Alternate assessment on the basis of the student's medical condition, as determined by the ARD committee, and documented in the student's individualized education program. A decision not to assess a student should be rare, and the decision should be made prior to administering TELPAS Alternate. Students may be eligible for a medical exception in the following circumstances. The student is in the final stages of a chronic, terminal, or degenerative illness. The student is receiving extensive short-term medical treatment due to a medical emergency or serious injury in an accident. The student is unable to interact with peers or staff without risk of infection or contamination to himself, herself, or others. The student is unable to receive sufficient or consistent homebound services due to medical issues. The medical exception form can be found on the TELPAS Alternate Resources webpage. A Do Not Score designation of no authentic academic response means the student is unable to participate meaningfully in the TELPAS Alternate assessment on the basis of the student's disability, resulting in the inability to make an authentic academic response to stimuli, as determined by the ARD committee and documented in the student's individualized education program. A decision not to assess a student should be rare and should be made prior to administering TELPAS Alternate. Students may be eligible for a no authentic academic response exception under the following circumstances. Because of multiple impairments, the student is unable to receive information during instruction and assessment. For example, the student may have a combination of sensory impairments, such as hearing, vision, or tactile. The student is unable to demonstrate any observable reaction to a specific stimulus. The student exhibits only startle responses. The student tracks or fixates on objects at random and not for a purpose. The student moves or responds only to internal stimuli. The student vocalizes intermittently, regardless of changes in the environment around him or her. The form for this designation can be found on the TELPAS Alternate Resources webpage. Remember that districts are required to assess all eligible students who are in attendance during the testing window. Students who are eligible for TELPAS Alternate must have a test submitted or must have an appropriate score code set. A glossary explaining how some terms are used in the observable behaviors is provided in an appendix of the TELPAS Alternate Test Administration Manual. For the listening domain, information should be presented to students orally, except for students who receive their input through sign language. For the writing domain, students using augmentative and alternative communication as expressive communication must use symbols that are combined with printed letters or words, beginning with the early independence level. There are a total of 8 PowerPoints to help educators learn about TELPAS Alternate. This has been the TELPAS Alternate Test Administration Procedures. The other PowerPoints are listed here for your reference. If you have any questions about the information in this PowerPoint, please contact the Student Assessment Division of the Texas Education Agency using the phone number or help desk email shown here. If you have questions about administration logistics or test materials, please contact Texas Testing Support.